And we're live.
Hello, everyone. This is Trip Jennings. I'm Executive Director of New Mexico In Depth. Thank you for joining our first Google Hangout on air. This is being archived, and we are here today with Andi Murphy, who did a wonderful package of stories for the Las Cruces Sun News recently on Native Americans and higher education. We're also joined by Heath Hauseman, who is Deputy Director of New Mexico In Depth. So just a few kind of house cleaning messages to start off. This is our first time doing a Google Hangout on air, and you see I just messed up Google as I was speaking. So bear with us. We might run into technical difficulties, but I don't expect so. We have a wizard at the controls here. So I wanted to start out by just kind of going over some of the main, I guess, points in the story, Andi, that the stories that you wrote, and one of the overarching narratives, I think, in the stories and in any reporting was that Native Americans probably need some kind of community. It's probably like most students; they need a community when they're going away to college, or something like that. But what did you find in the way of that community being important to Native Americans and going away to school?
Well, I found that it was very, very important, more than I really thought. Um, because other students, they come here and they're are familiar with living in a city, living in a town, a big town, and even if they're from other ethnicities, they have they're already used to this community here at NMSU and Las Cruces. So, and then looking at Native Americans and just where we come from, it's even more important that we have a community and we feel that we are, that we have a place here, even though it looks so different, it functions so differently than where we come from.
So let me tell the viewers and those of you following our hangout, Andi is Navajo. So this is you were kind of you learned some stuff about this whole situation. A lot of this, how much of this was known to you? I mean, some of the stats were striking as far as Native Americans and finishing higher ed. But as you were saying, you were writing about stuff that you knew about, but how much of this was new?
I would say, a lot of the, finding out that a community is really important is new. I went through the whole, when I went through college, it was just normal. I found my community very easily because, my sister was already here. So, I already had an automatic best friend. I already had, someone I could hang out with all the time. I was never lonely here because my sister was here and her friends became my friends, and that was a really easy transition. So I didn't really think about, all the other students who come here just by themselves from, maybe they're coming from Arizona, from the middle of the res, and they're coming here for the first time and they don't know anybody. That really opened my eyes to what they must feel like and what they must be going through. And it's pretty tough, and then that's when, I find out that community is really important. Um, and NMSU knows that too, because they know where we're coming from. So yeah, I knew, all the statistics I knew about because that's what you mostly see in the media is statistics about Native
Mm-hmm.
Americans. Oh, we're so there's lots of health problems. There's lots of alcohol problems. There's problems with education. That's what you hear in the media. So all of that stuff was already pretty much known to me.
So in some ways, your story, excuse me, is a little different than maybe other many Native Americans, or some, in the sense that you were not the first to go off to college. I think that's there's a sizable portion maybe of Native Americans who might be the first ones in their families to go off to college, and it sounds like your sister was there? Maybe your parents had gone before you. I just um,
Well, my parents had never gone to college. I am the first one to go to college. My sister is younger than me.
oh.
I started off at New Mexico Highlands in Las Vegas, and there I found the really small Native American club, and that was really fun. I mean, it's even tighter knit than um, in MSU because it's a lot smaller, but they have a
Mhm.
really big presence there. And I think their program was really, really good. They automatically got a hold of me, ropes, and made me feel like home over there. And then I came to NMSU my junior year, and my sister, she started here so I was a junior and she was a sophomore, so she already knew all the ropes here, and she was like my mentor here. Yeah, so first one in my family to go off to college.
So, oh, okay. So I didn't realize that. Thank you for telling us a little bit of your story there. Um, so in some ways, the student stories did kind of mirror your own experience. You were the first one. I mean, so you knew what it felt like to maybe be by yourself. Although it sounds like you made community pretty quickly at Highlands.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would think I connect a little bit more to Emilia's story, or Emily's story, I'm sorry, because she came to NMSU and she's already kind of familiar with it, and that's how I came to NMSU. I was a little bit familiar with the college scene, how college courses and scholarships worked, and
Mm-hmm.
my sister was there to be
Mm-hmm.
my mentor and show me the ropes. So I didn't need AIP as much as, my sister did when she there. I participated somewhat in the AIP programs. I went to meetings and, was involved with American Indian Week, but not as much as, say Aileen or my sister was. My sister was, she held a couple officer spots,
Mm-hmm.
with UNAO and,
Mm-hmm.
ACEs and those groups within AIP. But I didn't. I was mostly a follower who helped her out and helped out the club when they needed it. So
So Emily, for those of you who might not know, actually found her community through ROTC, as I recall. And so, in some ways, she had Rio Rancho, I think, and she'd been around, and she was kind of experienced as not. It wasn't being away was not totally new to her, as I recall. And the IAP is the Indian Native. What is it? IAP. What does that stand for again,
American
Andy?
Indian Program.
Indian program. AIP. Okay. Okay. So basically, Emily, so you felt a little more, maybe your experience was a little more like Emily's than Aileen. Aileen came from northern New Mexico, and it was tougher maybe for her, or she actually got involved in the AIP.
Yeah, yeah, and also with Emily, she doesn't really have too big of a tie to her culture and her language, and that's kind of like me too. I mean,
Mm.
for a student who really has real close ties to their culture and their language, and that's just a really big important to them. As the It's a really big part of a lot of Native American people. When they're away from that, it's really hard to continue with that. It's like, going to a whole nother planet and you don't have that language around you. You don't have that culture. It's just totally different. That's that culture. And for me, I don't have ties to the culture or the language. My parents didn't speak the language or really participate in that part of the culture and religion. So it wasn't like I was being away from family. It was just I was moving down the road, and so that was okay. I didn't really feel like, oh my gosh, my culture's gone, my people are gone. I felt that, okay, well, I'm here, just 300 miles away, so that's fine. And I think that's how Emily felt.
Mm-hmm.
But for
Mm-hmm.
people like Aileen, she was taught her language and her culture, and she has close ties there. Um, she was involved with the clubs a little bit more. She was involved with a little bit more, so she could have that familiar community there.
Well, Andy, one thing that struck me as you report this was talking about when we say community, we don't necessarily mean, and I think you've sort of touched on this, something that's specific to Native Americans. Certainly the American Indian program or related clubs define community, but for Emily it was ROTC, which is a big mix of students. One of the elements in reporting had to do with a religious affiliated group at NMSC Nations that some students get plugged into. So there's all sorts of different options. Some of them are specifically geared towards Native American students, others are not. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. There, like you said, there's nations, and so the programs with AIP, the UNAO, United Native American Student Association, UNAO, United Native American Organization, they deal with students all across the board, and then ACES is Native American Student Science majors, and then the Business Association. They deal specifically with science and business uh, majors. So they have those, and those are more structured. Those, they have to go on. You have to have an American Indian Week. You have to participate and stuff like that to be in that organization. But then there are the more social, easygoing clubs that you can get involved in too. Like, Nations was a really good one. I was involved with that a little while and made a couple friends there. Um, so yeah, there are, and I'm not just talking about the ones that are have nonprofit status. It's just the little community that you find here that you really stick into. It could be, um, the a Christian group. It could be a music group. It could be, something that just keeps you going. Is what kind of communities I'm talking about. ROTC, and as for you have to find something that keeps you going, and other people who have the same interest too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That,
No, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, Andy.
no, does that answer your question,
It
Pete?
does, thank you.
Okay.
So now that you've kind of spent some time thinking about this, learning, and you probably knew some of the stats, but you've kind of gotten um, more in depth into the subject. Do you have any thoughts on the subject of American Indians and higher education and the system in the country? Um, Now that you've done some reporting on it and maybe thought, maybe encountered some new facts, kind of new things that made you kind of wonder a little more about American Indians and higher education in the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, I talked to several students for this, not just Aileen and Emily, and I spent a lot of time with all of these people. I spent with every person that I talked to for the story, and even the ones that didn't make it into the story. I probably spent more than 2 hours talking to each of them about Native American education, their education, what do they want to do at home, and stuff like that. And one thing that I guess I kind of learned is that our tribes, they push us out of the reservation saying, go get your education, come back and be a professional, work for the tribe, help the people with your education, and just come back when you're done. And they push all kinds of scholarships at us. There's so many scholarships available for us, and a lot of us take advantage of those. And then we finish school, like me and my sister have, and Aileen has, and and then there's nowhere to work when we go home. So we have all this wealth of knowledge. We have our degrees and diplomas, and in the end, it's like we can't go home because we don't anymore. Um, and education is kind of Native American higher education is in this sort of, I don't know if you can say a limbo, or but the educated young people such as myself, it's like we can't go home even though we really want to. because there's no job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard for someone on a reservation with the tribe,
yeah.
and so it's very hard to create jobs, and you know,
That might
so
be a
there's
good time to ask a question that we got from Norman Patrick Brown, who's watching on our Google Hangout here. People can join in and submit questions. Norman, who is Diné, or Navajo from Arizona, says, keep up the good work. And he wants to know how the Navajo tribal government's, what he calls mishaps, interfere with your educational progress. Does the lack of good Navajo governance make your identity difficult? Which maybe some of that ties into, what you were talking about, not having jobs when you go back home. And then he also asks, what could universities and colleges do to better support Native students in pursuing their education?
okay. So the first question, um, the mishaps within Navajo Nation. Well, a lot of people they say, oh, Native Americans have a free education, they go to school for free, and they never fix their own darn fault. But that's not true. But at the same time, there's so many Native American scholarships out there that we can take advantage of. I mean, I went to school basically for free. It was paid for, all Native American scholarships, and it's just the whole thing is just keeping that GPA, keep going to school, don't take a break. That's the whole thing there. So Navajo Nation, I think, is doing a really good job in trying to, making it a point, making it a aspect of their government to create and maintain Native American scholarships. But it's just that community that students really need. They need to find, you can have all the scholarships in the world, but you need to make it work on a personal level, on an academic level, when you're actually away from the reservation. And I think what a lot of tribes are doing is they're taking education into their own hands and they're creating their own tribal college, which is a really great thing, I think, because they're taking it into their own hands. They're not having to push that hard anymore. To If you want to get an education, you have to go out of the reservation. That's not true anymore. You can stay in on the reservation. Like, there's two colleges in my hometown that I could have went to, but I chose to go out. And if I didn't want to, I could have easily went to school right across the street from where I grew up. So, I think there's no, there's a lot of complaining. Oh, now, they have all these steps, and they're really strict with their money, and scholarships are so hard to get these days and maintain. But it's really just on the student to maintain and really work for that kind of support from your tribe. And then if you don't want to do that, there's the tribal colleges within your own reservation. And I think the tribes are doing all they can, all that they know how to do to support their students. Is just, we need the support now to come back home, is the most important thing that I guess I have learned from this whole thing. Is we have our education, we can be successful, but you need to make room for us to come home.
Andy, can I ask a quick question, just so for some viewers who might not know this? I mean, New Mexico State University probably has a Diné as well as people from Pueblos, and I imagine maybe people with affiliations of communities outside of New Mexico. Did you encounter anybody who had affiliations from outside New Mexico? I guess I'm just wondering how many groups are there at New Mexico State University.
Yeah, I've met someone from the Sioux tribe, Lakota tribe here. Um, so there's a couple of different people from a couple of different tribes. One from New York. I know she came here and she was here for a while, but I've only been here for 2 years as a student. Um, and then when I graduated, little community on my own. So so yeah, so there are mostly Pueblos and Navajos. Haven't seen too many Apaches though, even though they're just right across the road there. But yeah, there are a couple of other
Hmm.
tribes here.
One thing that struck me, Andy, in your reporting, and I think this gets at the second half of Norman's question, what could universities and colleges do to support Native students? You had an official from NMSU talking about we know we fall short. We don't know what the answers are, in part because Native students could find community in so many different areas. So for one student, it could be the American Indian Program. Another, it could be ROTC. So you keep trying to create programs, but every Native student needs something different, and it's really hard to then create a program that works for everybody. So what? I saw in your story, NMSU's officials kind of saying we're doing what we know how to do. We're experimenting with things, but we know we fall short. Is there anything that you came to in the course of your reporting, or that you've thought about that could help beyond what you see being done right now at NMSU or UNM or other schools? I mean, clearly there are a lot of Native students that stay at tribal colleges, but there are also a lot who are coming, to Albuquerque or Las Cruces or other universities across the nation.
Mhm. Well, I think universities and colleges could, um, make it a point to better understand Native American students, because we do come from a whole different country, almost, and just have that kind of sensitivity there, and just providing a really social club to come to, not just straightforward black and white. This is our agenda, this is our meeting, this is what we're going to do today, this is what we have to do. More of like a social hangout. I mean, there's all these different programs that NMSU has. One deals with, has an underlying, um, aspect of religion and science and business, but I think we really need a lot of social socialness, social time, a social group to be friendly with, because at home it's all about the family, like Mr. Pepion said. It's all about, being close to people like yourself, people of your own tribe, and then, you come here and it's split. You have to, there are communities you can find in your own, just outside of AIP. Just a group of friends you can hang out with. They're all Navajo. Oh, you're from Crown Point. I'm from Crown Point too, and we're automatically friends. Just a I don't know, a group to be more social, and that's
Yeah, and I want to follow up. You mentioned Professor Pepion, and he talked about, in the stories, family being really important versus maybe the broader society. It's always difficult to generalize, but individualism is something that I know that was part of how I was raised. But family and tribe, very important, right? That's kind of what you're getting at here. Is kind of the recognition from officials. Um, that's kind of what you're talking about. Part of what?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you could have like, I don't know. I mean, just yeah, just that's how it is at home. You're friends with your cousins. You're friends with, everybody's the same. There's not like, oh, can't talk to her this week because her religion is different, or she can't eat that this week because there's some kind of holy week going on. It's all the same. Navajo people, follow the same. They have the same taboos, the same jokes, the same stories, the same clan system. So you do just feel a lot more comfortable going around Las Cruces, even going to class with another Navajo with you. But then that's also, not too, because you do need to branch out and get out there and be comfortable talking to white people and black people, and you do need to get out there, and sometimes when people are stuck in just their own little group, that's kind of not a good thing because they don't learn the social skills or what they really need to know to function, in a regular workplace with a diverse group of people.
Well, that's just really kind of deep and profound stuff you're talking about, Andy. Frankly, what you're talking about, that's that feeling of community and safetyness, right? The safety, the feeling familiarity with someone at the same time, um, branching out and being able to discover, in some ways, a broader world, right? Of friends of different communities. Um, which in some ways that's what the college is. I think some people would say that college helps people kind of experience a broader world. And it sounds like you did that.
I did. I mean, it was hard at first, because I always hung out with my sister. She was there. We lived together in the same dorm. We got an apartment together and we hung out together. Um, and at first it was like a little nerve-wracking to go and talk to a different person, but then you really find out that they're just like you. They're harmless. They're not going to, judge you for who you are, what you don't know. Because I think a lot of us go out there just not knowing a lot of things. Like when I went to a restaurant to give a tip and sign it, like I had no idea what I was doing and why they gave a pin to me at the restaurant. I mean, it's a lot of little things like that you don't know, and you kind of feel insecure going out into the world by yourself. But once you get out there, nobody's really going to judge you, and you find out that you can be friends with, a different person. You can talk to them and go up there and ask questions. You know, it just makes you appreciate other people a lot more, not just like staying in like, oh, I'm Navajo, I have to be with Navajo or else I'm gonna lose who I am, I'm gonna lose my culture. I mean, you can still have that and go out there and have different friends and make relationships and stuff like that. And
So you find these people may not have the same exact experience, but in many ways they've probably had experiences just like you. So yeah, like you said, you find that people are people, right? I guess that's kind of what you're saying.
yeah, yeah. I mean, at first, you're scared to go out there, but I think a lot of people are like that too. I mean, if you come from a place that's, just a lot of white people and you never see any color, and then you go to college and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I saw a Native American for the first time, but I didn't know how to talk to them. I don't know if they're gonna, be mean or, have a whole different view on stuff. I shouldn't really talk to them. That's how I kind of felt was I don't know if I want to go talk to a person with blue eyes. They might be, you know, so different that we might
Yeah,
have conflicts or something like that. But,
right.
I always think and I always say that being Native American is really difficult. You have to be Native and you have to be American at the same time. And sometimes those conflict with each other. But, you know, being Native American is a little bit harder than being any other person, I think, because there's that conflict there and that difference there, being Native and American at the same time.
Um, yeah, that's great stuff. We are really getting close to the 30-minute mark here. I was going to ask you about your growth as a journalist, but I don't know if we can sum that up in 30 seconds. If you felt like you kind of grew as a journalist working on this, if you can.
Yeah, I did. I mean, just being able to spend, more than 2 hours with every one of these people and really digging into their story was really kind of refreshing because as a news reporter, something's due every day. You don't get to spend 2 hours talking to people. You don't get to spend a year on a story like I did. But the whole process was really a big learning process from writing to interviewing to going back and re-interviewing another person for another 3 hours. But you know just really getting in there and making sure that you have the right story and you because it's a a topic that I really care about.
Andy, listen, thanks so much. That was beautifully put. And you really kind of touched on a lot of deep and profound kind of issues, being Native and American and how they conflict. And I think people, when they're honest with each other, people everywhere probably deal with some of that stuff. But just thank you so much for being on this, our inaugural New Mexico in Depth Google Hangout on air. You were wonderful.
I know next time it has to be an hour.
Huh?
Next time it has
Yeah,
to
an
be an
hour.
hour. That's right.
Right. There's so much here, right?
Well, and Andy, let me just say thanks for working with us on the story and the
Thank
blogs you did. It's been a real pleasure working with you. I'm really glad that you worked with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. It was really edifying and I loved it.
Great.
Especially seeing the finished product, the whole package with the videos and the photo. That was really good.
Thanks so much. I think we're going to wrap up now. And Andi Murphy, who was the writer of the package of stories that appeared in the Las Cruces Sun News, Heath Halsman, the deputy director of New Mexico in Depth, and I'm Trip Jennings, the executive director of New Mexico in Depth.